Lucius Cotta, who is a close friend of yours, Catullus, seems to me to take great delight in a heavy pronunciation and a coarse-sounding voice, and he imagines that what he says will seem truly old if it comes straight from the country. I myself take pleasure in your voice, Catullus, and in your refinement. I won't mention the refinement in choice of words, fundamental though it is. This is provided by theory, taught by grammar, and strengthened by daily practice in both reading and speaking. What I mean here is a pleasant sound produced by the mouth itself. In the Latin language, this belongs especially to the city of Rome, just as in Greece it belongs to the inhabitants of Attica. "2,000 years ago, when Cicero wrote De Oratore, he emphasized the impact of different accents on the persuasiveness of an orator's speech. Any unschooled Athenian will easily outdo the most erudite people from Asia, not in their choice of words, but in the sound of their voice, and not so much in the correctness as in the pleasantness of their language." Now, in the modern day, his words still ring true. Those who listen to the speaker will take the accent of the speaker in mind when they think about them. The accent allows the listener to connect the speaker with a specific community and stereotypes that surround that specific speech community. In the United States, African American vernacular English is an excellent example of the negative impact of this. Speakers are perceived as being more aggressive and less educated, which is harmful to their socioeconomic status. In a straight race between a speaker of standard American English and that of AAVE, it's likely that the standard English speaker comes out on top. Linguists have been studying this effect for decades, calling it language attitudes. These attitudes can, and often do, impact different groups in different ways. Minority groups, who are generally associated with negative stereotypes, will not necessarily be treated the same as groups whose attributions are not as negative as the others. Many studies have looked into the effect of language attitudes on socio- and economic indicators. They frequently point to a decrease in employability as the speakers get further from standard American English. Now, it is important to recognize that there may be other factors besides attitude towards certain dialects that may impact employability. Stronger accents can affect people's understanding. In social situations where clear communication is important, employers who struggle to understand dialects will favor potential employees that they can more easily understand. In addition to this, there are some ways to categorize how features of dialects impact the employability of the speaker. The same study that discusses the employability of certain accents of English identifies phonological differences as some of the least jarring. That's a really big, fancy way of saying that differences in how we say words are of least importance. For example, Boston accents are known for losing the R in words like ka or Harvard Yard. More jarring than that are differences in word choice. They are quite common in pop culture, and if you've watched any British TV, you probably heard people talking about their holiday, when I, who grew up in the US of A, would say vacation. Syntactic differences are, for example, dangling prepositions, where a sentence ends with a preposition. Where are you headed to versus where are you headed? Another example is how British and American speakers refer to sports teams. Typically, every team is referred to with plural verbs. Arsenal are top of the league. City are bottling it. Whereas in American English, only plural team names use plural verbs. The Patriots are losing, but Chicago Fire is winning. But these differences do not mean that one accent is better than the other. On a global scale, no difference in language is measurably good or bad, although you may struggle with some more than others in daily life. However, we use these differences to identify people with speech communities, which is where these language attitudes come in to change our perception about a speaker and also about the speech itself. If you take anything away from this video, it should be this. Differences in language are used by our brain to categorize people, sometimes negatively. As a result, We associate those language differences with the negative impression we get, but this simply isn't the case. We don't like or dislike certain sounds because they're good or bad, but because we connect them to someone or a group of people who we have a good or bad attitude towards. I'm sure you all have, at points, struggled to understand someone, and that interaction probably didn't go too well. I have, on so many occasions, spoken to people who are not fluent in English, or have heavy accents that I can hardly understand. But remember that this problem, the struggle for me and the other person to communicate, does not reflect who we are. Struggling to understand someone doesn't mean that they're dumb, and I'm sure if you were using a second language in a foreign country, you'd probably feel stupid struggling to communicate yourself. I know I do. I hope you enjoyed this video and thank you for watching.